Welcome back to the channel, everyone. In this video, we're going to be going over the do's and don'ts of removing hardwood floor. I'm going to show you the easiest way to do it, and I'm also going to show you the worst way to do it. The first thing you're going to want to start with is removing your shoe molding and baseboard if you need to. Luckily for me, my floor did not go underneath the actual baseboard, so I just had to pop off that little bit of shoe molding. Next thing you're going to want to do is set the depth of your saw blade. I just line my saw blade up to the edge of my material, set my guard, that way my saw does not cut into my subfloor. I then took my skill saw and cut about a 6-foot section of floor out to kind of isolate it. Next thing you're going to want to do is look at your floor from the side if you can, or figure out which way the tongue is facing and then which way the groove is facing. The reason you want to do this is because when you're pulling up hardwood floor, I found the easiest way is to pry from the tongue side. The staple holding the floor down goes into the tongue side. So when you pry from the tongue side, you put that upward pressure directly on where the staple is holding it. If you pry from the other direction, it's easier to get your prying tool under the board, but when you put pressure, it pivots where the staple is holding it in. So you really don't get much upward pressure on the staple holding the board down. And what that does is it ends up tearing out the section of the board that's being held down by the staple. For this project, I started on the wrong side. I did that because this is the side that was exposed, so I figured this would be the easiest side to start from. But I quickly realized that I was on the wrong side. As you can see here, bits and pieces of this wood are being torn out. And here, when I pull this board up, you should see a large section of torn out material that was left. See there, that's what I'm talking about. So what I did was I went about halfway up and cut about an 8-inch section of floor out, pried that up so that I would be able to access the tongue side so that I could pry from the correct direction. Now, if I could go back and redo this again, instead of putting the 8-inch, let's say, relief cut here in the middle of the floor, I would have just gone ahead all the way to the wall and cut it out there and then started prying from the wall. Because what you'll see is that I have to do this twice. I did it here in the middle, and then I do it again in a little while up by this wall. And it was just kind of a waste of time, I think. One thing I do want to note is that I highly recommend wearing PPE, personal protective equipment. Knee pads are great, but I suggest wearing gloves and eye protection. I really, foot stomp, highly recommend you wear eye protection. And I think you'll see why here in a second. But first off, you can see here the tongue section and groove section, and you can see which way the staples are facing. All right, PPE, watch this. See how that board just flew up there? Okay, that one missed me. It missed me by a hair. But in a minute here, I'm gonna switch over to a time lapse. And as soon as I switched over to the time lapse, the first board that I pried up came up and whacked me right in the side of the head. And I got a nice little goose egg today because of it. So listen, these boards have been treated like crap since they were installed. People have been walking on them, not taking care of them. They're mad. They got some built up anger. They got anger issues. And as soon as you put a little pressure on it, that thing wants to fly up and about knock you out, take your head off. So PPE, wear it. As you can see here, the floor's coming up a lot easier now that I'm prying it from the correct side. And luckily, I only had that one run-in with a board. All the other ones missed me. But if the board is too hard to pry up, don't try to force it up. Try to use a little finesse. Try to use a little leverage in other spots. And it should just pop right up nice and slowly. And here you can see I'm putting that other relief cut up by the wall, which is where I should have done it in the first place. See, there's another one trying to get me. So this video was taken last night or yesterday. It's now Sunday. And I've got a huge pile of floor in my dining room. Probably 12 feet wide by 15 foot long. And I got to figure out how to get rid of that stuff. I was going to do it today, but I had homework and all sorts of other crap to do today. So it's going to have to wait till next weekend. Man, it looks like that floor is coming up easy. It was a pain to do, but it looks so easy on video. Okay, so here I'm starting by the front door. There's about a 5 by 7 foot section here to pull up. And what I'm doing is just cutting a little hole, uh, maybe 4 inches by 10 inches here by the front door to give me a place to start from. I'd already cut up the floor. I forgot to turn the camera on for that. You can see kind of a line going past my left side there where I cut up the middle of the floor. But here I'm just making a hole that I can get my prying tools in to start prying up the floor. Also, another tip, when you're doing this, wear hearing protection. I know it doesn't look like I'm wearing hearing protection, but I have the foam plugs in my ears, and it really makes a difference. Banging on this metal pry bar with that metal hammer, it's just ridiculously loud, and we only have one set of ears, so we might as well protect them, because once you go deaf, that's it. You can see my little hole worked. I'm able to pry up the first board to give me access to the rest of them. I did notice you may be tempted to pry up from the ends, but when you pry up from the ends, it is easier than prying up from the groove side, but it still tears out that back section that's nailed down, as you can see on the left side there. But sometimes you got to do what you got to do. I did see another video. It was a young dude pulling up floor, and he had about like a 3 or 4 foot pry bar that he was using. He was standing up and using it to pry. It does look a lot easier to do that, and it may be something that I try in the future if I have to pull up hardwood again. My thing is though, like with a long pry bar, is you're gonna be standing and bending over for hours. And I know when I pulled up the tile in my kitchen, that killed my back. So for this one, I chose to get knee pads and do it from the lower position instead of standing and bending, just to save my back. Here, I didn't really know how I was going to get this stuff up. There you see another piece came up trying to take my head off. But I just got my prying tools under there and slowly tried to work it up, and it actually worked. And for the pieces under the trim, instead of trying to pry it up, try to get pry it horizontally from the side, just like that. And it'll usually pop out from under that trim. Because think, like where it's under trim, there's not gonna be any nails. So it should be pretty easy to pull out. Now here, you might see it in a second. I do something really stupid. So right now I'm running this saw along, and right there, I cut it out of it when I was doing the editing. But I had forgot to remove a piece of that shoe molding, and it was sticking out, and it was in the path of my saw guard. And instead of stopping the saw and removing the piece of shoe molding correctly, I tried to use the saw as like a battering ram and knock that piece loose while the saw was going. And I didn't get hurt, nothing happened, but after the fact, I thought, wow, that was stupid. Something bad could have happened there. And here I just make a diagonal cut because I don't want to deal with trying to pull the floor out from under all that trim there. But this is pretty much going to wrap up the video, as you'll see here in a second. Guys, I'm going to be honest with you. I've had enough for today. I'm going to cut the camera off. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you on the next video.